Good morning, actually, good afternoon, everybody. It's morning in London, and this is Michael Carrier greeting you from sunny London. I hope everybody is well wherever you are. I'm going to be talking about looking at how we redesigned the language school, innovating and changing after COVID. Here's a little bit about me in case you don't know me already. I used to work for all of these wonderful organizations, teaching, setting up schools, directing schools, and running networks of schools like the International House Network in different countries, some of the countries on the map there, US and Germany and so on. I wish that I was in Greece with you, or many of you, because it would be much nicer and probably safer than a life in London at the moment. Here's a little outline of what I'm going to talk about: the COVID changes in language teaching, how we review our strategy, how we know our customer a little bit better, perhaps, how we should get to know our customer, how to innovate, and future signs of success. If you have comments and questions, please use the chat box because I can have a quick look at that while I'm speaking. So, what should we be doing in the transition? Well, first of all, many of us, I hope most of you, but many of you will be teaching online and hopefully preparing new online material and learning how to cope with the online system, using things like Quizlets to get little bits of online material. I hope you're building new customer relationships, trying to build loyalty in this difficult time. If your school has to be closed at the moment, then you need to find ways to act generously, build connections, do free things outside the school to try to get people still engaged and remembering that close relationship with your school, because that's what the future success of the school will be built upon. And during this time, during and after COVID, we have to listen and develop our approaches to language teaching, change our strategies for the future, review our curriculum, our content, our methodology, and so on. Because after COVID goes away, or if it goes away for a while, we don't know if it'll go and come back, people are going to have different expectations, different preferences about what they've experienced themselves or through their family and their friends and so on. And so it's important to look at how people are thinking of themselves, especially younger students, the new upcoming generation, Gen Z and so on. Here's a great quote from a professor at Harvard Business School. I've got a couple of Harvard people in here. It's very expensive to study at Harvard, so I'm going to give you some free stuff from the business school. Professor Zuboff says, today's citizens experience themselves as unique individuals. They crave more control over the quality of their lives. But organizations, including language schools, continue to treat them as anonymous members of the mass. Companies ask, how can we sell customers our product, our language course, when they should be asking, what do you need and how can we support you? We can turn that relationship around. Since normally in a conference, we would be sitting next to each other and I would ask you to chat to your neighbor. We can't do that. But if you want to share some of your experiences in the chat box, the other members of the audience around the world can see that and maybe chat back to you, and I'll try to look in the chat box and we can do some questions at the end. So, how did you survive so far? What did you do to continue teaching, maintain income, cut costs, and so on? Some ideas for reflecting and sharing. The crucial thing for me is in post-COVID, we need to make sure that we innovate. Don't stagnate, innovate, move forward, find new ways to get people excited about your school, your teaching, your classes. So first, make sure you have an innovation culture. Which of these 4 types is your school at the moment? Are you idea toxic, wasteful, friendly, or hungry for new ideas? There's a whole seminar just on how to improve your innovation skills. So Google the concept innovation culture and you find that very interesting. Make the school open to new ideas. Make sure your school can avoid this problem, commodification. This little table is actually about schools in the UK, just a sample of a few that I looked at to show what qualifications the teachers had, what books they used, what accreditation the schools had, what exams they used, and see how similar they are. English teaching is becoming in some places a commodity where all the schools do similar things. They do the same things. The teachers have got the same qualifications. We use the same textbooks. So for success in the future, post-COVID, to pull people back into our schools, we need to make sure we innovate and do new things, different things, make our school more unique. So looking at it from a business perspective, what kind of brand are you? Are you a value brand or a premium brand? And this example is a traditional classic example. You know, coffee is very cheap if you buy it as beans in Mexico, but once Nescafe have turned it into a product for the shops, it's more expensive. When McDonald's add a service and give you cups of coffee, then that's more expensive again. If you go to Starbucks, you pay 3-4 times more for the same coffee, but the experience, the premium value that you feel at being there with your friends in a nice environment, nice cozy sofas, good Wi-Fi, whatever. So the question for everybody to think about in their teaching in their school is, are you a value school or a premium school? Are you at the Nescafe end of the spectrum or the Starbucks end of the spectrum? And where do you want to be? And how can you change that, especially after COVID, when people are changing their viewpoints and their expectations? A very important professor at Harvard came up with this concept of competitive advantage. Michael Porter was his name. And these are the 5 forces. I've adopted them slightly for English language teaching. 5 forces that impact upon innovation and advantage, making your school better than other schools or more popular than other schools. Some of those key factors are the teacher development. How much do you invest in teacher development to make sure the teachers are the best that they can be and dedicated and motivated and well paid, we hope. And how much innovation can you bring in? How much new technology? What are your competitors doing? Watch them carefully. And what's the quality perception, like the value versus the premium brand? How do people see your brand? What do you know about your customers? KYC, know your customer, is a big thing in customer service businesses these days. You need to be able to analyze what the criteria are that customers use for choosing to come to your school or buy a product rather than go somewhere else. So analyze this in your school with your teams of people. You know, what do customers decide when they're looking for your product or your service? What are they thinking in terms of the relationship? What kind of relationship do they want? What are their criteria about price? Are they very price sensitive? It's all to do with knowing your customer and then pitching your marketing so that you can make your school fit their needs and their wishes and their expectations. A great quote from Peter Drucker, also from Harvard Business School. The aim of marketing is to know and understand the customer so well that the product, the language school, the language course, fits him or her and sells itself. So if you haven't done this already, do an online survey of your students and ask for their future preferences after COVID. What would they like the school to offer? What would they like the school to do more of or less of in future courses? That would be a really interesting thing to find out from them. Especially as we go forward, we're getting younger and younger students from the new generation, excuse me, the Gen Z generation. Here's some quotes from an educational journal that came out yesterday, the PIE, the PI journal, if you know it. It's a free journal. What are Gen Z, tomorrow's students, what are they looking for? They're looking for making education personal to them, looking for something that can enable them to prove their unique points. They expect more of a personalized approach, like Professor Zuboff said in the earlier quote, almost on a one-to-one basis. They're prudent, social-minded, hyper-connected, and look at that number, they make up 40% of global consumers. Gen Z, what's your strategy for Gen Z after COVID? How are you making your school, your classes, most attractive to them rather than to your own ideas of what you want a school to be? I mentioned customer perception. This quadrant is a way that we manage and look at customer perception in broader business. This is about cars. Quality goes up and down in the middle. Price goes left and right from low price to premium price. So a Rolls Royce is in the top right because it's high quality, high price. A Skoda is in the bottom left because it's low quality, low price. Honda is kind of intermediate. So which is your school? Is your school a Rolls Royce school in terms of quality and price? Or is it a Skoda school? It's cheaper than all the others, but it works perfectly fine. Or is it a Honda, somewhere in the middle, kind of reliable, not too expensive, but not really the cheapest? Positioning that perception of your school is really important for innovating in the future. So it's about looking at strategy. People may change their expectations after experiencing lockdown and all the bad things that happened around that, but also some of the more positive online experiences they've had, including online learning or online communication, Zooming like this with everybody around the world. So our strategy might include things like making sure the online school that you've been using during COVID is always available for the future. COVID may come back, and also we can balance the relationship between face-to-face and online differently in the future. Build a self-study resource online so your school is always open 24/7. If you don't have that already, I'll show you a quick design of something that you can copy in a few minutes. Make sure that your school is carrying the impression of being cutting edge and new and exciting, and build video class skills using Zoom, for example, outside the class, not necessarily just for classes. If you're going back to face-to-face, then have Zoom meetings with students. Do some weekly story or a monthly song, a music session, or something interesting that involves the students outside the regular classroom space. So don't think that your school consists of a relationship where students only come in for 90 minutes in that room and then they disappear, and you don't think about them, and they don't think about you until they come back. And look for disruption in the marketplace. How are things going to be disrupted? That's a really important business concept. I can't go into the detail of this, but you might know about disruption, how things like the digital camera made the old camera companies go out of business, and the film companies went out of business because digital cameras disrupted the market and came in cheaper. And Spotify or Expedia, these travel companies, disrupted the travel agent world. Netflix disrupted the cinema world, and things like DVD shops no longer exist because they were disrupted. So maybe you can disrupt, or other people will disrupt, how we organize a language school. Think outside the box. Think about finding new ways to get away from being the same as everybody else, so that you have some kind of emotional branding connection with your students, in the same way that people buying computers often buy Apple, even though it's much more expensive. Macintosh is twice the price of a PC. It's the same computer inside, but there's an emotional connection that people think Apple is cool. So how do we make your school cool? Here's an example of a disruptor, Lucy. I'm sure you know about Lucy. If you don't, Google English with Lucy and find out what she's doing. This English teacher, she lives in England. She has 4.1 million subscribers learning English with her online on YouTube. She has disrupted the market. She doesn't have a school. She doesn't pay rent. She makes her money in a different way. She teaches online. 4.1 million people. 147 million views have taken place of her website and her lessons. That's an enormous difference to the way that we normally teach English. So there are different ways you can innovate. Here's some of them. I won't go through every one in the list because I'm cautious about time, but it's important to have a value proposition. In other words, what is it that you are offering the student? It's not enough just to say, well, we teach English. Yeah, let's unpick that. You know, so there are different kinds of course designs, different types of courses. There is the customer service feeling. You know, when people walk in the school or telephone the school, what kind of personal, emotional feeling do they have? Are they welcomed with a smile? Is there free coffee in the foyer of the school? You know, what makes them connected? What experience do they have before and after their lessons? Do you always send them emails afterward? Are there social media interactions after the lessons? Lots of things that you can think of that would enhance the value proposition, make it seem bigger, more value for money, better engagement, more connected, more of a community. Is the classroom design cool? Is the learning experience really satisfying? Can the students measure their own success and therefore feel motivated? Are the teachers learning new skills, etc.? Lots of different ways that you can innovate in your value proposition, especially on VFM, value for money. You know, the economy in all of our countries may shrink or be damaged for a little while. People may have restricted budgets. So we want to make sure that your brand means to everybody value for money in these challenging times, which might mean smaller classes, added value through curated material. I'll explain an example of that in a minute. Online self-study, wider use of social media so that people see your school popping up in their social media feeds regularly, daily, at least weekly. Fewer teacher-led hours, maybe more online hours of study, so that balances. One of the expectations, if you're teaching in a big city, is you want your students to drive across the city or come on the bus or the tram a couple of times a week. It may take them a long time. They will be less patient in the future. Maybe they'll say, why should I travel an hour to get across town to the school when I could do the lessons online? They've experienced this a little bit more in recent times. So this might change the balance of face-to-face and online. And so they might be looking for more out-of-class activities. And value for money means offering more for less in these challenging times. Enhancing the experience, the customer experience, the physical experience of coming into the school or being a customer. So make sure that you digitally enhance the experience as much as you can. Vox Pop, using things like SurveyMonkey, make sure you constantly, regularly ask students and customers, employers if they're paying for their employees, parents if they're paying for their students, what is it that they want? How do they feel about the lesson so far? Get feedback, engage them. Use cashless service, especially now people are worried about the virus. Everybody's using cash. Use the technology, get people to use their phones to pay for snacks or coffee in the school or to pay for courses. If people miss lessons because they're sick or they can't get to the school, have you recorded the lessons? Make a video recording or do a catch-up lesson on video. Get them engaged at a distance so that they feel more and more connected to your school as a community. And be aware of touch points. A touch point is every time that a student has any contact with your school. That means a phone call with the office or with the teacher. It means a lesson. It means walking into the school and seeing that it's nicely painted and it's clean. It's, are the toilets clean? It's every single thing. It's the website. Is the website interesting? And does it change regularly to keep me interested in looking at it? A touch point, every time the student touches your school in some way, they learn something, they feel something, and that changes how they want to interact with you. So part of changing the strategy, reviewing things, thinking about things, let's think about the methodology as well. Make sure our teaching style, our teaching brand highlights innovation, and we look for new ways, new types of curriculum, new types of activities, new types of content, and especially lots of new seminars, workshops for teachers to get together and share lessons learned through these difficult times, through teaching online where they've done that, or suggesting ways to start teaching in a blended way of a bit of online to supplement the face-to-face in the future. Make sure that teachers have the confidence, the practice, the training, the skills to work with new technologies like Zoom, so it's second nature. Look for other things, not just the Zoom style of video, but maybe if you haven't already done this in your school, get an LMS, a learning management system, something like Moodle, or more interesting things like Blackboard, although it's a bit expensive. But there are lots of platforms where you can share lessons that and you can also share self-study materials, or you can hold live classes, but make sure that you are connected, your school is connected in that way. And of course, make sure that you can help teachers, pay the teachers to write new learning materials to meet the needs of these new approaches and new platforms and new types of teaching outreach. A great place to look for ideas for training here is Nick Peachy and his website, Peachy Publications. He has a little chart here on the different steps, the different areas. I won't go into detail. You can see it on his website on how to make the transition from the physical classroom to the virtual classroom, and any combination of the two that will be needed in our post-COVID time. So check out Nick's ideas on that. Make sure you look at the curriculum and review it, make sure it's flexible and can be taught online, maybe with smaller bites, smaller chunks of learning goals with links to online accuracy practice and exam practice. Make sure the curriculum adds lots of visual excitement, more videos, images to share, using share screen like we're doing now if you're working online. Add cultural content, enrich the input language, because I think, just my theory, but I think that a lot of the textbooks that we use now are going to seem pretty tame after COVID. There's been some new work from the Council of Europe on the CFR, the European Framework of Reference, on mediation, new types of social activities, social engagement, and ways of describing those language competencies. So add that to your curriculum to make sure it seems more up to date and new and exciting. And make sure that the language that they are learning, that you are teaching, is really relevant, that it's not just the language of the book, it's the language of the real world, it's work related, it's study related, it's related to the needs that the students really have outside the class. Make sure that you're thinking in these terms of not just giving classes, but what happens before class, pedagogically and in terms of customer service. What happens after class, pedagogically in activities and in terms of customer service. Learning a language, engaging with a language school is all three of these columns. It's not just in the class. That's not the only important part. So teachers need time and support to make sure they're helping students before and after, pre and post, as well as in the class, I feel. We need to prepare new material and new activity types and new venues. So for our main class, why not say this week's lesson will be on Facebook Live? Use Facebook and YouTube for events to make it exciting. After class, build a self-study platform, which I'm going to show you. Have your own YouTube channel with clips of videos of your teachers giving lessons, actual whole lessons or just clips about a certain thing. You'll see what I mean if you look at Lucy's website earlier on. Get students to engage you and your teachers and your school with social media. Post their assignments on social media. This week's homework is to write a story to put on Instagram, for example. Engage with the world, bring the world into the classroom, take your classroom out to the world. Look at new areas of online resources. There's some ideas on the right there of places you can find things of that nature. I mentioned a couple of times self-study portal. Here's just a very rough example of what a self-study portal looks like. I think every school should have one of these so that even when the students are not in your school, they're at home, they can go to a website. This is just a website. They click on their level. If they don't know their level, they take a test. They then look at what kinds of things are available for them to study at their level, which skill, reading, grammar, speaking, listen to songs, lots of options there. When they choose one, they get a list of activities. This is just a simple website. You can do this website in a day. Choose an activity, watch a video, listen to a podcast, listen to this dialogue and practice your speaking, listen to this song and fill in the gaps. These are all activities. There are thousands and thousands of activities like this, free, available out there on the internet, but you can collect them together gather them together and share them with your students to give your school a 24/7 accessible portal, adding huge other value for money areas to your school. And not to forget a portal for teachers too, where they can find resources, they can find skills materials, CPD material for their own personal development and community of practice engagement, for example. All important things that you can put together for a school to use. So, what are the signs of success for the future after COVID? It's about knowing the customer and knowing what their perceptions are of our school. What's their perception of our value for money? That's important if the economy is in difficulties. What's their perception of quality? And if they're not sure how to judge quality, we need to try to educate the consumer and explain why our school is a higher quality, even though it's still value for money. Engaging students through social media, getting them involved with the school. It's not a once a week engagement, it's part of their social feed. Your school should be more visible in their social feed. You'll be tracking their posts, tracking your followers on social media, getting statistics on the likes and web visits and so on. This sounds difficult if you haven't done it before, but remember Lucy has 4 million subscribers. When I worked at Cambridge only a few years ago, they started a Facebook page and they had 0 followers. Within a year, they had 5 million followers. So you can reach out. And other signs of success, new and better and higher exam enrollment and pass rates, maybe using new exams, not only the ones you use already, maybe different ones. And adding more immediacy, live events, make your school part of the learner's personal schedule and part of a community where the learners are interacting with each other outside the classroom as well. I have to stop there because I wanted to make sure we have time for questions. There's more on some of the tech stuff in a book that I edited, which I'm just showing you there. If you look at there's a QR code. If you have a QR reader, you can click on that and that will take you to my website where in about an hour, this presentation will be, the PowerPoint will be there if you want to look at it again or download it, etc. But now, thank you very much for listening, and let's leave a little bit of time for questions, any suggestions, any comments that you'd like to make. Thank you very much. I'm just watching your comments go by. If anybody has a question, I can see lots of nice comments. So thank you for your nice comments. Oh, now Manny has a question. What is it, Manny? Susanna missed the explanation of curated materials. Curated means you select the free materials out there in the world and put them into that little visual thing that I showed you, where people can click online and choose a level and choose an activity and so on. Somebody said we need financial support for the new era. Well, yes, we do. We need to find ways to get students to pay for our courses because that's really important for the future of the school and the future of the teachers. So, somebody asked, do you think there's a future for a teacher without CELTA? Well, it's not about CELTA necessarily. I don't think you have to have a CELTA. You have to have a qualification, a good qualification that's equivalent to the CELTA introductory course. There are other courses from Cambridge. There's a Trinity certificate. There are other certificate courses, but you need to have a good qualification and not just one of these short one weekend kind of qualification. People need, as teachers, you need to be well qualified to start, but always continuing to learn and wanting to develop and do more things. Vasiliki asks about more information on LMS. Well, we could talk for hours. Google, whoops. That's my timer stopping me. Sorry about the noise. Google LMS, there are lots of great websites explaining about learning management systems, and they'll give you more about which ones you can use, how to choose them, what kind of information you can put into that, and so on. And somebody says, what's the first and most essential thing? Oh, that's Vance Stevens, my goodness. Hi, Vance. I don't know what time it is in Penang, but you must be in the middle of the night down there. The very first thing I would do is to make sure that we have a curated portal, a self-study, a window on the world, something, however simple or small it is, to make sure our students can come to us 24/7. Because if the virus hits, or there's some problem, or they can't afford, for example, current students, if they can't afford to sign up for next semester, well, give them some free material on a 24/7 self-access website, so they still stay connected to the school. And maybe the semester after, they'll have enough money to come back to the classes. Keep a long-term relationship with our students in that way. And then when we have to teach online because there's a virus or there's some other problem going on, or we want to balance a blend between face-to-face and online, we've got those resources already there. Yes, Iphigenia, thank you for reminding me to talk about Uralta. Uralta is another initial training certificate. If you go to the ICC website, that's icc-languages.eu, or in Greek at hcc.edu.gr, you can find out all about that certificate at the same kind of level as CELTA. Okay. Somebody, Ms. Rosalie says there has to be an online backup plan and teachers have to be fully equipped. Yeah, and that's absolutely, you can't do anything without bringing all the teachers along. Teachers development, teachers engagement, teachers motivation is absolutely crucial to all of these changes and thoughts. Okay, how are we doing for time? I think that's, if there's any more questions, I'm just looking to see if we have any more. If we don't, then I think we can wrap it up. And let me say thank you very much for joining me, and thank you to the organizers, to Anastasia and Dimitris, for giving me the chance to join everybody. I hope we'll join each other in real time, in real life, sometime soon at the next event. But in the meantime, thank you all very much for being here, and bye for now.